A new Israeli attack against several residential areas in Gaza caused 2 deaths and several wounded during Friday morning. The presidents of Russia and Iran met in Turkmenistan in the context of a foreign name interconnection of times and civilization is the basis of peace and development. In Venezuela, the first political and academic forum on the situation in Colombia proposed a political dialogue process in Caracas with the mediation of Venezuela, SELAC, and other participant countries. Hello, welcome to From the South. Mara Marrera from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. In Palestine, a new Israeli attack against several residential areas in Gaza caused 2 deaths and several wounded on Friday morning. According to local sources, the occupation artillery fired missiles at the town of Jabalia and Saftawi, killing 1 civilian in each location. The spokesman of the Civil Defense Agency indicated that at least 16 Palestinians have already been rescued in the Jabalia camp, although the number of victims trapped under the rubble is unknown. Israel's continuous aggressions against the Gaza Strip by land, sea, and air since October 7, 2023 has so far caused the death of 42,065 civilians and injured more than 97,000, most of them children and women. The non-alien movement expressed on October the 10th its concern over the use of internationally banned weapons in the Israeli genocide against Palestine and Lebanon. During the meeting, the Executive Council of Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, the non-alien movement expressed its concern and warned about the use of white phosphorus by the Zionist regime, which caused long-term damage to the human health. The United Nations Interforce of Lebanon, UNIFIL, accused Israel of attacking its headquarters facilities in the town of Naqoura, southern Lebanon. The UNIFIL reported that 2 UN Blue Helmets were injured when an Israeli tank fired at the observation tower at the mission's headquarters in Naqoura. Israeli forces have also targeted other UNIFIL positions against a bunker in the Labrun border area, where the peacekeepers were sheltering damaging vehicles and a communication system. They add that an Israeli drone was spotted in the air and it is headed towards the entrance of the bunker. Following the Israeli offensive, the United Nations Under-Secretary General of Peace Operation reported that 2 UN peacekeepers had been injured and hospitalized right after.
Serious risk. Clashes in the Labune/Naqoura area since the 8th of October have involved tank and small arms fire, airstrikes, Iron Dome interceptions, and multiple explosions. 2 peacekeepers were wounded when earlier today a UN post, OP-14, in UNIFIL's headquarters in Naqoura was hit by tank.
Indonesian Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi condemned on Friday the Israeli attack on the UN peacekeeping mission in southern Lebanon.
Indonesia strongly condemns this attack. An attack on UN personnel and property constitutes a serious violation of international humanitarian law and UN Security Council Resolution No. 1701.
Lebanon's interim Prime Minister Najib Mikati urged Israel to stop its attacks on civilians, noting that 139 people were killed during Thursday bombings. This away the official call for a UN resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire from Israel and asserted that all the victims of last day's attacks were civilians. This statement comes after at least 22 people were killed and 117 wounded in 2 Israeli bombings on Thursday night in residential areas of Beirut, the Lebanese capital. In addition, Mikati stressed that the Israeli attack on UN peacekeepers in the south of the country is a denounced crime. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations (ASEAN) held on Thursday the second day of a summit taking place in Vietnamese capital of Laos. The meetings were held with the Prime Minister of China, India, and Canada, as well as with the Russian Foreign Minister, among other external partners. After the meeting with the representative of the Chinese government, the signing of an agreement to expand China's free trade agreement was announced. In this sense, Prime Minister Li Qian emphasized that in a context of instability and uncertainty, China and Asians have an opportunity to develop together in a climate of slow recovery of international economy. In the framework of the Asian Summit, the Foreign Minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, warned countries of the actual intentions of U.S. actions.
Because everything they do is aimed at containing China and Russia, and in the name of this task, everything that has been accumulated over the long 10 years within the ASEAN-centric format, which was convenient for everyone, which took into account the interests of each and everyone, all of it is being sacrificed. So, the destructive nature of the U.S. actions in this part of the world is obvious.
32 countries confirmed participation in the BRICS summit that will take place in Kazakh's Russia. According to Russian presidential advisor Yuri Ushakov, the event will take place this year in the Russian city of Kazan from October the 22nd to the 24th under the theme Strengthening Multilateralism for Global Development and Security. 32 countries have confirmed their participation, including both member countries and those wishing to cooperate with the organization. Ushakov stated that the event aims to promote multilateralism and development among emerging economies. The former president of Brazil, Dilma Rousseff, spoke about the issue of the dollarization and highlighted the upward trend of using other international currencies besides the dollar, a strategy that helps people to strengthen their respective economies.
First of all, I don't think it's de-dollarization. I think it's the use of different currencies that expands your currency basket, as the euro expanded, as the euro had at a certain point in time. Everybody used and still uses the euro as a reference currency.
Let's take a very first break, but remember you can join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, met in Turkmenistan in the context of a foreign name. The interconnection of times and civilization is the basis of peace and development. The two leaders met in Ashgabat, the capital of Turkmenistan, where they have traveled to attend an event commemorating the anniversary of 300 of the birth of poet Magtumogli Faragi. Russian presidential advisor Yuri Ushakov said that a meeting between the two heads of states is of great importance, both to address bilateral issues and to discuss the aggravated situation in the Middle East.
Relations with Iran are a priority for us, and they are developing very successfully. We are actively working together on the international arena, and our views of events in the world are often very close.
In Pakistan, an armed attack on a mine in Baluchistan province left at least 20 deaths and injured 7 people. In this regard, police officers report that the incident occurred late on Thursday evening in the Duki area and that victims were mostly from Baluchistan region, with some being from Afghanistan. So far, no armed groups have claimed accountability for a strike in which perpetrators used heavy weapons, rocket launchers, and hand grenades. These kinds of attacks have been occurring more often in the country in recent months, targeting companies involved in the extraction of mineral resources, as well as the foreign employees working for them.
"20 innocent people were killed. These poor people did not belong to any party or group. They were just there to earn a living for their children. Some of them were from Afghanistan, some from Kilisaifola and other parts of the country. These cruel attackers murdered 20 innocent people.
In the United States, with less than 4 weeks to go before the presidential elections, polls revealed the Democratic Party candidate Kamala Harris to have a 4-point lead over her Republican opponent Donald Trump. According to a survey conducted by the Academy and YouGov, Kamala Harris led to race with 49% support ahead of Trump's 45%, with the current vice president also showing a small 3% advantage among registered voters. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and more. It is grab on and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Colombia, in view of the recent coup d'etat attempts planned by the country's right wing, the different political forces that support the government of President Gustavo Petro call on the population to march in defense of his presidency. In this regard, the senator of the Common Party, Sandra Ramirez, issued a call for people to take to the streets to march on October 11, since the right wing wants to serve power from the change government. For her part, the United leader and Congresswoman of the House of Representatives, Carmen Ramirez Poscam, points out that it is necessary to support the government's call to mobilize in order to defend democracy and achieve the triumphs of revolutionary forces. In Venezuela, the first political and academic forum for the situation in Colombia proposed a political dialogue process in Caracas with the mediation of Venezuela, CELAC, and other TCP countries. The Foreign Minister of Venezuela released an official statement with the conclusions. After the forum, in view of the worsening of the crisis in this country, as well as the execution of a coup d'etat publicly denounced by President Gustavo Petro, it is proposed to carry out a broad process of political discussions among Colombian actors with the director mediation of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Likewise, it is proposed to invite President Xiomara Castro in her capacity as the President pro tempore of the Community of Latin American Caribbean States, CELAC, as well as the countries of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our Americas, TCP, to contribute their good office in this process of dialogue and to promote conversations that tend to build ways towards respect for popular sovereignty that guarantees the full well-being of Colombia. The statement continues. The discussions held in these forums have also reached consensus on the importance of political and diplomatic relations between Venezuela and Colombia, which have taken on a positive dynamic since their relaunch 2 years ago with the arrival of President Petro's government. Finally, the proposal of the large community of Colombians in Venezuela, made up of millions of migrants, to join the initiative proposed by this forum, which has been carried out in evoking the noble principles of solidarity among the Bolivarian peoples, has been welcomed. In Ecuador, the Masar hydroelectric power plant shut down its turbines due to low water levels in the reservoirs that supplies it, thus worsening the energy crisis in the country. The flow of the dam fell 2,115 meters above sea levels. Its limits to operate correctly, since below that point, that mud and sediments can damage the equipment. The plant is part of the main hydroelectric complex in Ecuador, and its stoppage comes after the government announced the day before power outages of up to 10 hours. The Mexican state-owned oil company Petróleos Mexicanos, Pemex, reported on Thursday that a chemical spill at the dirt part refinery located in Texas, United States, that caused the death of 2 people. In an official note, the company said the affected workers are being treated. In addition, Pemex explained that the emergency protocols were activated and that the corresponding investigations are being carried out to know the causes of the accident and to guarantee the reactivation of the facilities.
Yesterday afternoon, we had an accident at the Deer Park refinery, which is located in Texas. As you know, there was a sour gas leak. It is hydrogen sulfide gas, which is severely harmful to health. We had 35 people affected, of which only 13 were evaluated locally and sent to the hospital, and they are in good health. However, they remain in the hospital for 24 hours for protocol reasons. Unfortunately, we have 2 fatalities, which are the workers who were directly working in the affected area and who received the direct impact of the gas. A series of investigations are currently underway to unveil the causes of the accident. We cannot yet state or point out exactly what they have. We cannot speculate on the reasons for what happened until the incident is concrete.
The third meeting of Abya Yala is taking place in Guatemala with deep reflections on the advance and setbacks of popular movements and social organizations of our continent. Our correspondent Santiago Botón, more details.
Delegados de varios países están reunidos.
Delegates from several countries are meeting to build a common horizon. This is the third continental meeting of Abya Yala Soberana taking place in the municipality of Santiago, Zacatepeques, Guatemala.
We are here to come to reflect and deepen our processes of struggle in the territories, but also to where we are going. We have reflected about it every year.
The third meeting also addresses self-criticism, emphasizing that the left bears some responsibility for its support for the election of right-wing governments that implement the imperialist plan, as happened in many cases in Peru.
Pedro Pablo Kaczynski, a government of the right and the left, said, "We must support the lesser evil." And that is why I say the left also has responsibility for having led governments, and it is still the same as always. And sometimes we also question some leftist projects, for example, Chile. It entered as a government of the left, but it is clearly right-wing.
What is alarming is that there are also social and leftist movements financed by the imperialist corporation to install an opposition to the same oppression they promote in the world, according to a Puerto Rican sociologist.
It is a perverse thing because what they want is to produce a domesticated left, a left that is controlled by them, that doesn't get out of hand, a left that is not anti-imperialist. So that is why they finance feminists from the USAID, the embassy, from NGOs, from foundations. The CIA channels money to strengthen the domesticated opposition that they want.
In this sense, the social and indigenous organizations of Abya Yala Soberana consider it imperative to deepen the decolonization of the people's thinking in order to advance in the horizon of the good living.
Santiago Botón, teleSUR, Guatemala.
On Friday, the Norwegian Nobel Committee warned that the Japanese group Nihodo Kendo, formed by atomic bomb survivors, with the 2024 Peace Nobel Prize for its tireless work against the use of nuclear weapons.
The laureate is, of course, even more challenging when dark sky is on the horizon, when conflicts is present around the world. But this year we want to highlight the important and the astonishing fact that nuclear weapons have not been used in 80 years, also because of the incredible work of the Nihon Hidanki. This year's prize is both a wake-up call to the world, but it's also to recognize how individuals can stand up and create hope by telling their stories.
Context: after receiving the award, News Hiranki's Hiroshima branch executive highlights the parallels between the current situation in Gaza and the devastation caused by the atomic bomb in Japan.
After all, it is all about peace. The images of the children in Gaza covered with blood held by their parents remind me of Japan 80 years ago. Children lost their fathers in the war and lost their mothers with the nuclear bomb. They became orphans.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well for Telesur English. And from the south of Marrero, thank you for watching.